working yet? Are we working yet? I have my audio. Are we working device? I have my audio. Are we working device? I have my audio. Are we working? Hello, test. I have my audio. Are we working? Hello, test. I have my audio. Are we working? Hello, test. I have my audio. Are we working? Hello, there's always some. I have my audio. Are we working? Hello, there's always some. I have my audio. Are we working? Hello, there's always some. I have my audio. Are we working? Hello, there's always some. I have my audio. Are we working? Hello, there's always some. Okay, sorry about that. Seems to be working the audio though. Apart from it repeating itself, but that's because I was testing it. So, yeah. Hello, this is a Baldur's Gate 3 honor mode run.
Other than the infection, you're more or less intact. A miracle, given everything you've been through, but it'll all be for nothing if you don't find help soon. The tadpole is a death sentence.
Yeah, I'm thinking... I know I'm going to do a paladin and...
Wonder if the gods are watching me. Fresh water. There must be a river nearby.
I'll either do a solo run of one of the I think the new arcane art interesting. I don't think we're
You've got the same thing I... These things are going to consume us from the inside and turn us into mind flayers.
I'm sure enough. This is how the mind flayers breed. We host their spawn. I'm not sure how much time we have left, but I'm not going to wait.
You and I'm hoping, but I've barely made a dent in it so far.
Oh wait, I tried to not get her as a companion. I just kind of wanted to see what she does on her own. And if she runs away and I never see her again, then oh well.
It already had. I'm going to... Hopefully there's no more of these. Likewise.
Okay, cool. Not that I don't like her, but I never let her just go off and do her own thing. We're gonna go see what she does.
More of those wretched things.
I'll do it when she goes in there and dies. I might help her. I don't want it to die. I kind of want to see what she does. I think we might do later. Heal was fun as a paladin. I think it's just quirky. Strange. That's why I did it on have that really awful ranged attack that does psychic damage. Make the furthest jump possible. I also have a speed potion, so maybe I don't want to use my bonus action to jump, because then I won't be able to use a speed potion if I need to dash again to get further away to be out of combat, so I can abandon it. That's also possible. I could just go up here, sneak, but sneaking will be an action. I just don't want to use the speed potion yet as well, but I also don't I don't have much movement either, because I'm I believe got deep gnome, so I don't have much movement. I'm guessing intellect devourers have quite a bit of movement. I also have 0 movement speed. Hasn't done anything this turn yet, unless that's just glitched. I have 0 movement speed. Hasn't done anything this turn yet, unless that's just glitched. I have 0 movement speed. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. I might have put my audio too low. I have 0 movement speed. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. I might have put my audio too low. Alright, that sounded better than... I apologize if this stream has been incomprehensible and you've just been hearing mumbling. I have OBS setting. I'm using OBS to stream this, and I think I have my microphone audio really low, so it should be better now. If it's too high, then you can turn down the volume as well on your side. I reckon dashing is always the thing to do here. It's whether jumping will get us anything. Not so the furthest path.
At the ready.
I don't think that's going to be far enough. Oh, it is. Great. There we go. No one. I might as well go grab that. I'm debating whether I want to do region locked for this run. Might as well take that. In case you didn't know, you can leave camp supplies in the traveler's chest and they can still go to here. Oh, let me move that. Oh, can you not? Okay, I was going to say, there's no way you can't move. And they go here. So you can long rest, keep all your supplies there, and you don't have to take down your carry weight. You could also just get the mod that makes it so carry weight is no longer a thing, but I don't do that. So I do have weightless gold on though. So if you're wondering why maybe later on in the run I have a lot of gold and it's not weighing me down, that's why. I do have that mod on. That's more so just to avoid having loads of gold in the traveler's chest and having to go back constantly for it to buy things and having it split between characters. I can just have it all on one character without it reducing weight. If you think that invalidates on a mode run, then whatever. I was going to show the mods I add on, but I'll go into the main menu and I don't feel like doing that. I do have some mods on, like a lot of UI improvement stuff. That's mainly it. I don't think I have any that change gameplay other than the weightless gold. That would be the only thing. Oh yeah, and I have unlimited dyes on. So I can dye things as many times as I want. There you go. I think that's... Yeah, I think everything else is just UI shit. So that it shows more information around stuff and enemies and combat. Not anything you wouldn't know just by like inspecting it, but basically just putting things on that are... So you don't have to inspect every creature to see what they've got. Like resistances and so that kind of thing. To damage. But other than that, I don't think I have anything on. I don't want to end the day. Ooh, Astarion as a paladin. Could be interesting. We're going up this way. That's a possibility. I kind of want to do a companion I haven't used or haven't had in too many runs. I have had Astarion in a lot of my runs, but not really paying too much attention to him. That was unnecessary amount of damage. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do what kind of run, like roleplay wise. I don't really... I do some roleplay, but... For a duo honor mode, I might do like quite a bit of metagaming.
Hurry, there, in the grass.
And it's more so just
You
to
can
play
kill
the
it,
game
can't
than
you? Like you killed the others?
I say that makes no sense. It's more so to do the combat for honor mode and duo honor than it is to do a roleplay campaign.
There. Now. And now you're going to tell me what was that? What's going on? And to think, my name's so. Although, well, yes, of course, you all.
Woo. Granted, we need to get wizards to turn him into a paladin, so got to do that. Twinned, that's what I want. Not that I'll be using it too much, but it's the best meta magic out of the 4 available. Apart from Dissonant or Distant Spell. You can do that, whatever. 14 charisma. Charisma? Constitution. I don't think anyone's watching, but I'll go check there's nobody. No. Just me here. But you know, people might watch it back on the recording. I think my most viewed honor mode livestream was the Raphael fight, which makes sense. I guess we've got to get Gale, don't we? He is a bit of a yapper though in this first scene.
Approach the sigil on the stone.
What do you say for it?
Anyone?
I don't think I've yet to fail that roll. And there's going to be a day when I want Gale and I fail it.
You don't happen to be a cleric by any chance, do you? We're most certainly going to need a...
Right. Sorry, Gale.
You're not versed in magic, are you? What's on your mind?
I shouldn't have skipped that because that's a funny
I
bit of
question the wisdom
dialogue
of that. I'll be in the...
where he talks about being a real magic user. I guess, well, I mean, if we're doing region lock, we want to kill the intellect devourers. But region locked to me is, you don't have to do everything immediately upon seeing it in an area. It's just I can't leave this area. We'll do that. I can't leave this area until all the combat is done in this area. Then I can go on to the grove and all that stuff. Not that that's a particularly difficult thing, but I'll probably do the intellect devourers last, just because they. It's not a difficult fight. It's just a RNG fight because they can one shot. So.
We should check it out, but be careful.
You know, I could run this back 100 times and eventually I get the intellect devourers. I say 100. All I mean is I can run the intellect devourers fight from a fresh honor mode run as many times as I want. Eventually I'll get it. So I might as well just leave it until last and guarantee that I can do it. Because otherwise I'm just wasting my time. Now, I think we want Lae'zel to be free here, probably.
We take it to the grove.
I think we can make the charisma check there.
Just get rid of them.
Friends, because they go away anyway.
He's right. Let's go.
Enough gawking. Get me down. Never.
Never.
My people possess the cure for this infection. You have come a crash.
Then go back to camp.
As you.
Yep. Easy. This one should be easy because I can do minor illusion and kill them all at once. Unfortunately, I do know this entire sequence, or this entire like mini dungeon, I guess, does not give you enough XP for level 3. But potentially the mind flayers, I keep calling them mind flayers. The intellect devourers do. They could give you enough XP for 3. That'd be interesting because I've never done that first Grove cutscene with 3 at level 3. Sorry, you also can skip it, but I don't have the. I'm not a wizard. Three is good enough. We can take out the archer on high. Right. What? Okay, the game just definitely glitched there. Because I shouldn't be in here. This was a weird thing on the Nautiloid. Obviously I wasn't live when I was doing the Nautiloid, but there was a weird glitch on the Nautiloid that happened, where one of the imps fell through the floor but could still shoot me. And also the Mind Flayer did a Mind Blast, and I've never seen the Mind Flayer do a Mind Blast before. And that was while the devil was still alive. Okay, it's interesting that I've been put here. Because I definitely should not have been. They're dead anyway.
Stay low.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a glitch. I can't do anything about it. It's just a good thing I've got a Starion. So, I guess a Starion will have to do some stuff. Bit annoying though.
Move unseen.
22 to 17, but I can do sneak attacks, so it should be relatively okay. I think he can make this jump. Nope. I don't want to go all the way around again.
Make it hurt. Step lightly. Time for some fun.
Wait, what can I not? Okay, what the hell is going on?
The subtle approach. Yes.
Okay. This is being very strange. It must be a mod or something. That I might have to take off all my mods.
Watch the shadows.
There's no reason. Like, I've never seen the game glitch this badly before.
Let's prowl.
Why do you give a book? Everything all right out there?
Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, and it will come through that.
Right. I mean, I'm just dead here. Realistically, what can I do other than maybe set this alight? But there's not even... They're all over here, so... Yeah. I'm gonna have to go check my mods, because something is fucking up the game. I'll still have to deal with this shit, though. Potion of flying could be good. That could maybe get me away. If I close this door, force them all to dash instead of doing range attack, I could probably survive a single attack from this person. Yeah, close this door. I don't think a flying potion could take me out. Okay. But it could probably get me a far enough away that I can get to Astarion, maybe. So yeah, we want to do it now. And then we can dash on the next stone and fly further away. Yep. Good. Forces them to dash. Great. Yeah.
Still breathing, despite everything.
Okay, probably. Please don't get too close. Great. Only one. Opportunity to... No. I don't think I have a lockpick either. Oh, I do. Great. Let's go.
Time for discretion. Where do I go from here?
Oh, we don't want to bring... Keep Astarion out of combat.
Can't even catch my breath.
Nice and easy.
Great. Actually, just to make sure, they're all grouped together. That could be really good, actually. I must have an alchemist fire, surely. Oh wait, he's got firebolt. I'm stupid. Yay!
Nothing will stand in my way.
They shouldn't be able to kill him. They shouldn't. That's fine. The mage. We're all relatively low though, so
Hungry
okay.
for the slaughter.
What scrolls did I get? Oh, not great. Yeah. I can't lock the door, but I can still close it. And then
On the way.
get away.
No choice but to keep going.
Probably just create. Yeah. I'll just
I don't need
stealth.
any attention right now.
Go over here. Ooh, Astarion might die if he takes 3 burning damage, because it's 1d4, so there's 50-50 chance he dies.
I wonder if this is worth the cost.
But I do have flying, and that person has mage armor. Magic missile. If I go back here, should... might not kill, but it should be enough. Or we could just go for that. Or we could just throw and heal Astarion. That might be the better case, actually. Where the fuck is the throw action? There we go. Yeah, we'll just do that. Play it safe. For the moment, at least. Or create? Great, yeah, create stuff. Oh, I didn't realize that. That was a dumb mistake. And heal up. Great. And then we can get it a little bit further away. And hopefully only this mage can then attack. And then the other one will have to dash. Who are you going to target? That's fine. And then Astarion should be able to find and field a way to not die. We'll just heal just to make sure. Should make that deck save if I had to. Do this or guarantee that. That seems like the better option. And then I should, with flight, be able to get into that range. And then Astarion. Where's the... Can I make an attack here? Great. So... hide. Sneak attack. Dead. Great.
Survival is all that matters.
And then just be ahead to provoke disadvantage on this. Did I roll with disadvantage? Oh wait, because it'll be a deck save on me, so it won't be disadvantage on them for it. I don't think. Oh yeah, also I named the character Ridiculous. No, don't do it. Yeah, they had to hurt them. Oh, they proned themselves, so I can get it. 3. Oh, must have advantage. I was prone, not advantage. My bad.
Let's find some prey.
This could be the end. I don't think they can do 14. Yeah. They could have done 14, sorry. They absolutely could, but it was just unlikely. That's all I meant.
Into the shadows. Go.
Great. That could have gone a lot worse. Hopefully that's just like a one-off glitch and that wasn't actually because of a mod I had on. I'm going to keep playing. And hopefully that was just a one-time thing. I know the Nautiloid had some weird stuff, but we're just going to keep playing. I like the mods I have on anyway for UI stuff. Do a short rest.
Never a dull moment. Swift and my feet can carry me.
So for the next fight we want bludgeoning damage preferably. Oh, he just had... let me go to camp real quick. Not that one. Wait, yes, that one. I think Astarion should be able to. I don't know if he's proficient with those weapons. We're about to find out. Oh. Not great, but he can use them. And all that matters... Well, they're vulnerable to bludgeoning damage, so it's not the biggest issue. If it's not, like, amazing damage.
Alright, what now?
We don't need to roll great because we're doing double damage, so didn't need to do that. I just equipped it. Actually, that's fine. Yeah, whatever. It's been a while. Okay, I haven't played in like 2 months. Did anyone die in here? Yes. Oh, that was Keita. Never mind. There we go. I don't think I ever failed that perception roll. Or at least I don't recall ever failing it. Then again, even though I have a lot of hours on this game, I don't actually have a huge amount of playthroughs. Though I have deleted quite a lot that I no longer continue or plan to continue playing. But a lot of those were in Act 1 or Act 2. I don't think I've ever deleted a playthrough that didn't get that was an Act 3. Oh, would this be easier with Astarion? Yes, but it's already easy, so I don't care. Doesn't matter. Now, what's the best way to go around this? Evil from good. I don't know if we have any of those. I'm sure there's some scrolls for protection from evil. Or whatever it's called, the spell. Yeah, there we go. Scroll of protection from evil and good. That's what I meant. That should be good because these are all undead, so. Might as well just do the second. No. Honestly, it wouldn't be the worst idea to short rest so I have spell slots, but might do that actually. Oh wait, this guy might have a good weapon. I could do that. That would make this encounter a lot easier. Because that means that the Starman's got more health, so it should be him. And it increases damage quite a lot. And then I could just, yeah, I could do a long rest, give the heal giant strength to Astarion, and then I can have some spell slots to do some other shit. And we'll save from in here so we have like a sort of final point for them. Oh, we'll do this first. Might as well make this trek.
This book is far lighter than it should be with such a massive lock.
I just remembered I'm a sorcerer, not a wizard.
As what was once script is now an obliterated scrawl. You have a sense gods a lot in time.
Might as well take it. Yeah, okay. I know what I'm going to do for this encounter. Very bare bones. Not much happening. I know what Lazel was going to say. When you go to my crash, please. I'm so lonely. Please, I'm scared. I want help. Or, you know, something along those lines. Gale doesn't even have a thing above his head to talk. I guess we'll talk to Lae'zel.
Be quick about your rest. We must locate a crash. Should a single
bottom of sweat release from your glands, death be upon you. Ooh. YouTube's keeping up with it, right? Great. That could have gone a lot worse. Hopefully that's just like a one-off glitch and that wasn't... Sorry, I was checking the audio was working previously. And that wasn't... Sorry, I was checking the audio was working previously. Alright, we're all good. Let's go. I can always check OBS to make sure the audio is working, actually. There we go, good. What do we say we're going to do? Hill Drain Strength for Astarion. Give me some goddamn mage armor. Give me my spell slot back. Protection from evil and good. Is it concentration? If it is, we'll just do it for Astarion. Because he's the one that matters. There we go. Should have more damage now. Great.
Tread lightly.
Then he can be... Would he benefit from mage armor? Light armor. What does it go down to? 13. Oh, we'll see. Actually.
Still breathing, despite everything. Let's use.
Fever goes up. 16. Yeah. Beneficial to use that then.
Keep your distance, darling.
Let's get going.
How many healing potions do I have? 2. Not great.
What to do?
Watch your back.
We could keep Ridiculous back here and sneak around with a star.
Just like old times.
Basically just stealth kill all of these. I wonder if you... I think you have to try and pick it up. Yeah, there we go. So, 95%. Okay. Yep. And then I can just cunning action hide. And then let them all make their way over.
Let's move.
Not that.
Don't want to draw any attention.
That's what I wanted. How is he successfully hiding here?
a better position.
A better kind of person. Dash just to make sure he's got the dash over there. It's probably when we can do a magic missile. Not yet actually. That's fine. Slight reduction in movement, but I can dash.
This will do nicely.
Now would be a good time to magic missile.
Time to kill.
Shouldn't be able to do 15 and... Oh, great. No, of course I missed. Yeah. Probably better to just guarantee this one dies. Oh, it's going to be disadvantage or stuff. Oh, that's fine.
Time to push my luck again. May the gods
we'll see. We'll see. No. That's fine. That's not so fine. Great. And then I can dash for the Starion, get over there.
With pleasure.
Kill it. Easy.
Is that blood? No, never mind.
Now,
You have spoken.
wilt thou answer? So, we
No. Oh wait, got it. That's great as two.
Need to find a way forward.
I think that's everything in here. Or everything I want anyway. Don't need withers, but at least not in his current state. I need him when he can change classes, but I don't even know if I have enough gold. I do. How much XP do we need for level 3? Quite a bit still. I still think we could probably take on the Mind Flayers, even at level 2. Especially with a Starion and sneak attacks. Also, you can switch off that. I mean, that's actually better now than a dagger because of his 21 strength, so might as well keep it. It just means you can only sneak attack with his bow, which is fine. I need to get something for my microphone to stand up on because currently I'm hunched over my desk, speaking into it. Because my desk is short and I am tall. Yeah, we'll go take on the Mind Flayers. I keep calling them Mind Flayers. They're not Mind Flayers. They're Intellect Devourers. Does it matter? No. Do I care? Yes. Oh yeah, I also need to go do the perception check over there. Hopefully Astarion can just kind of one-shot most of these with sneak attack. We'll send him on a turn actually. How much health? 15 is a bit much actually for a sneak attack. But there's only 2 I think. Well, there's normally 3 for some reason. There's 2 at the moment. How do I have disadvantage? Darkness maybe? Great, cool. I'm honestly surprised that triggered a combat. I didn't think I would notice. Then. Come on, old boy. This old boy's steaming. Oh, am I gonna be able to get an angle on it? No. Oh, it's fine. I go again. Combat. I'm hiding. Oh, not as good as I wanted it, but still, he can only do one attack. So he can't kill both of us, and he misses. So sometimes we're lucky.
They won't know what.
Right. I was wrong about the level 3 though. Okay, this is very strange. That shouldn't be dropping that. That mob should not be dropping that item. There's definitely something going on. Because that Intellect Devourers only drop those at the end of Act 2. When you go into Act 3. So it shouldn't be there. There shouldn't be there shouldn't be an intellect, and there should be 3 intellect devourers there. I don't know if it's RNG though, the amount of intellect devourers you get. Maybe that's why there's only 2 there, but it feels like there should be 3. My memory says 3 intellect devourers in that encounter. I don't know. I might have to go check my mods. Because something feels off.
Just like old times. What's this? Neither seen nor heard.
Right. I don't know. Saurian should have enough. Oh, I definitely have enough stream.
Deep grooves.
That's everything in this encounter. This region. I guess I didn't fight the tieflings, but I'm not doing every combat encounter. I just dealt with that by persuasion or deception. It was. So shame I didn't get to level 3 though. I don't think it's possible unless you kill like all the what do you call them, Cambrians and the Nautiloid, and I didn't. Just gonna take a break for a second. Gonna go get a drink. Hello. Hello. I'm currently eating some food, so I'm gonna have my mic muted, but I'll just be playing. So I'll be back talking once I'm done eating.
No one's stopped me yet.
Open the bloody gate!
Nobody gets in! Zevlor's order!
What's up? Shit!
Damnable rogue!
And
We'll do it my way.
Hey, so, have you seen The Lost City yet?
Nope.
No. Do you intend to?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it is wonderful. I'll say that.
That's good.
I love it. I have been, rarely have I been more delighted by a sudden swerve in an actor's career than when Channing Tatum went full comedic actor. I think he's hilarious. I think Sandra Bullock is 57 years old and better shape than I am. Anyway, it is essentially in the genre of Romancing the Stone.
But starring an author.
But, well, Romancing the Stone's got an author.
Is he? Is he an author?
She.
She's an author. Oh, okay, that's
Joan
right.
Wilder.
She's a journalist, isn't she?
Joan Wilder, she's a romance author.
Oh, okay.
Very
That's what it is.
overtly,
Yeah.
Lost City is playing in the same sandbox. And so what I would like to ask you about today is, what do you think of things like Castle, things like Romancing the Stone, that are Hollywood depictions of us, novelists, authors?
So, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I think there's two categories, and we should approach them differently. One is the was it Finding Forrester? The Sean Connery.
Yeah.
One is the look at authors. Authors are authorial. And you know this.
Yes.
And then the other genre is, what if this wacky hijinks were done by a novelist?
What if this author was thrust into their books in real life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so those are like two subgenres of depicting.
Mm-hmm.
Artsy ones are, you know, being an author is lonely.
Yeah.
Being an author means that you are going to go some variation of crazy, take an axe to a door, and try to kill your wife.
Mm-hmm. Or you're going to try to sleep with your grad students.
Yes.
Which shows up way too often.
Yep. And and they play up the loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that? Like that's like key character trait of authors in movies is look how lonely this author is.
Well, yes. See that one. I don't know. For me, what I think of a lot of those is that it comes again from two distinct perceptions of authors.
Yes.
Which I think boils down to what kind of authors do you read, right? No one has ever written a story about a romance author who is a tortured artist living alone. You know, if you read exciting, fun genre fiction, then the movies and the TV shows you make about authors are exciting and fun in genre. Whereas if all you read is literary, capital L fiction, then yes, you're going to make sad, tortured things. And I guess somewhere in the middle there is something like, Stephen King's tortured artist in a motel room or a cabin, or he's done this so many times, where he's essentially just writing about himself.
Mm-hmm. So I guess there might be a third kind of genre about authors. And this is the how did this author get their ideas movie. This is your Shakespeare in Love, right?
Yes.
Have you, by the way, I'm sure you have because I bet you showed it to me, George Lucas in Love?
No, I've
You've not seen George Lucas
in Love.
You've seen Shakespeare in Love, right? I swear I watched that with you.
I did not watch it with you, but I've seen
We watched that at Leading Edge. And so that's why,
well,
assuming. But this was the magazine that we were both on in college. But Shakespeare in Love is, here's Shakespeare. He's a tortured artist.
There's a story behind this.
But he's also charming in like all of his characters.
All these things happen to him, and he's like, I'm going to put this in my book.
George Lucas in Love is fantastic because...
Is it that same thing?
It's 5 minutes of that thing, except he's like meeting a big guy with a big furry outfit, and he's like, oh, it's a Wookiee.
Wait, I have seen that. That's the one where he's like a space farmer with a crop of space wheat. Is that George Lucas in Love?
I think. I don't know. It's been a while. Look it up. I'm sure it's on YouTube or things like that.
Yes.
Because
now that you're describing it, I know I've seen a thing in that style.
And it has just like an amazing stinger at the end of it that but this is kind of how the J.R.R. Tolkien biography movie that came out recently approaches things. Not so cheesy as Shakespeare in Love, done more, but there's a lot of this. Here's the author's life. Oh, wink, wink, nod, nod. They're gonna write about this later. I mean, even Knight's Tale has Chaucer, and it's like, oh, look what he's experiencing. I'm gonna put you guys in a story.
Excoriate you in fiction, or eviscerate is the word he uses. Did you watch Quantum Leap?
I did watch Quantum Leap.
In the first or second season, they did a Halloween episode where he jumps into somebody, an author, I think, and his assistant is a young Stephen King, and it is just absolutely filled wall to wall with references to, the car that comes to life and tries to kill you, the scary dog that's going to murder you, and the whole time the little Stephen King character is going, oh, that's a great idea. And you don't find out that it's Stephen King until the very end. And then he leaps out. So, yeah, that's another example of this category.
Make it.
It's interesting because...
but he might have got more of my
These
people.
are all being written by writers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being written by screenwriters.
This attack
and
will only
our experience
we can't
overlaps
stay.
somewhat with screenwriting.
They've withdrawn there to prepare this
in the,
ritual.
you go off and you do your own thing. for a while and produced this thing. Our experience is very different from a screenwriter's life in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
This seems like a lovely little
you can
spot.
see some of this manifesting, I think, because I feel like screenwriters are consistently underappreciated in Hollywood.
For sure.
And it's very difficult to name superstar screenwriters unless you follow the craft, right? Like I can point to William Goldman and be like, "Oh, he did a good job."
Charlie Kaufman, Shane Black, like some of these big high-profile.
But we're authors. I bet your average person we pull off the street wouldn't be able to name any screenwriters.
Yeah.
But they will be able to name J.K. Rowling and Stephen King, even if they haven't read their books. They'll know George R.R. Martin. And so I think there's this sort of thing where maybe externally and maybe legitimately, the screenwriters are looking at the novelist's life as somehow more glamorous.
Maybe.
And then you end up with like the House sort of thing.
Well,
or not
possibly
House,
Castle.
Yeah.
That's a part of it, I think.
Yeah.
Also, screenwriters, on average, make far more money per script than an author will make. The average author.
Right.
Again, this is speaking in very broad generalities.
But we have to put an asterisk on that, because when you say the screenwriters will make more, those are produced scripts.
Yes.
Or option scripts or things like this. And so you're talking a pool of probably hundreds in a year that are meeting that threshold, and it is ignoring the probably tens of thousands
of aspiring
screenwriters where those aspiring authors are getting published at a much higher rate, and in the self-publishing era are self-publishing. Even that considered, though, your point stands, because if you take your average book that's a book contract with a main publisher and you compare it to what you get from writing a screenplay, what the screenwriter gets is a lot more.
Yeah. If you are a staff writer, it's not as much. If you are a head writer, you're raking in, 5 figures off a single script that you wrote.
6.
Often 6. You're right.
Yeah, it depends on if it's categorized in the low budget or high budget category.
Let's also say that screenwriters, movie screenwriters, often but not always, this is again a broad generality, come up through TV.
Yeah.
And TV writing is inherently and intensely collaborative.
Yes.
Which I think it does explain a lot of the second category of novelists are tortured loners, right?
Potentially.
I suspect that if you are writing constantly in this collaborative environment, and then you look at someone who writes one book every couple of years, you're going to get a very different view of them as someone who is isolated and alone versus you who's in a writer's room. I don't know if that's true, but I suspect that it might have some
this is
truth
going
to it.
Be us just theorizing in random directions. It may say more about us than it actually says about the industry or the people, but I think it is interesting to talk about because it's a depiction of us by a group who, it's like if you had a bunch of basketball players write about what it's like to be a football player. Right?
Yes. And there's probably a ton of overlap.
Yes.
In lifestyle and in core competency. But you would get a lot of things instantly and recognizably wrong.
Yeah. So what for you are some of those things that are instantly, recognizably, consistently wrong? I'll save you from that and give you one while you're thinking.
Okay.
Because the movies tend to depict one type of author. And this is the highly successful bestseller who is not just a bestseller, top of the bestseller list type of author. That's the author.
The author that everybody knows.
You get that, or you get the tortured person working on a masterpiece for 20 years who hasn't published it yet. Like, there's not the bulk of novelists that are living and working and making a living, either part-time or full-time from their writing, are in between these two. Like the vast majority, and there are very few stories about them.
The kind of work-a-day authors that are cranking out as many novels as they can while also doing side projects with, tie-in fiction and video games and all the other things. That rarely gets depicted. The one that stands out to me is the speed with which movies and TV seem to think the publishing industry moves.
Yes.
Castle will come up with an idea and 3 episodes later, sometimes even faster than that, the book will be on shelves. And like, nope, that is even the fastest working authors, the ones who are big enough names to have whole portions of their publisher essentially working for them.
Yeah.
They don't turn things around that fast.
No, the fastest we've turned around something is like 6 months. And that's like from turning in the last draft.
Burning.
Right?
Yes.
And that is burning fast.
When my brother did a co-write thing with James Patterson a few years ago, that was still like a 1.5 to 2 year process. And James Patterson is an absolute workhorse.
Yeah.
And it still took... publishing takes forever. It's a very slow industry.
Yep. They're also handsome. Now, this might be just a problem with Hollywood. They are... I don't mind this necessarily, but they are also handsome.
Yeah.
We may not be. We have a certain level of...
We have a face made for sitting by a laptop writing for hours a day.
I'll tell you one thing I thought was amusing was Stranger Than Fiction, I believe it is, where the author is locked in a hotel, paid for by the publisher, with an assistant coming to make sure they write their book.
Yes, that shows up so often. Is the agent shows up demanding that you finish the manuscript.
Yep.
Does that happen to screenwriters?
That happens to big best-selling authors who are slow.
So is Queen Latifah like over at George Martin's house right now, like demanding he finish Winds of Winter?
So I don't know how it works, but I do know both Christopher Paolini and Robert Jordan at one point were put in a hotel in New York with a daily check-in.
Wow.
Because there was a deadline and they promised to get it, and they had spent so much money on the marketing budget that was already in motion that they needed a book in hand.
Needed a book.
And so Harriet tells a story of Robert Jordan sitting in a hotel in New York typing on a manual typewriter, or maybe it wasn't manual, but basically he would do a page, they would print it out, she would edit it, hand it back to him, he would enter the revisions or what he wanted to do, print it out, and then they had 6 people in a line doing the proofread and copy edit, and they put it in the stack.
Wow.
In order to get a book in on deadline.
I would have jumped out that window.
So, the fact that they, my expectation is this is not happening that often, but it's happened to 2 people that I know. Christopher kind of had the same experience.
Okay.
You can ask Christopher his experience. I'll let him tell it because I'm going to get the details wrong. But basically the same thing. Hey, we need this book. We've got a hotel room for you. Come be in New York. We'll keep an eye on you and make sure that you're progressing.
Now, I do have to say that I have at one point locked myself in a hotel room to finish a revision by deadline.
Yeah.
And I got the hotel really mad at me because I was supposed to check out, and I did not. I was supposed to check out 2 hours earlier than I actually did because I was trying to finish it. But that was just self-imposed and in the middle of the book.
Yeah. I actually had something similar to that on a book tour.
Really?
Where I'm like, I need to get this done. The publisher's like, you need to get this done. I'm like, all right, you handle the hotel because I need a few more hours. And so I had publicists and people doing all the bad guy work. Be like, he needs another hour or 2. I don't think it was actually finishing revision. I think it was they needed me on this publicity thing, and it was like, you need to do this video call with the New York Times or whatever. And I'm like, how am I going to do that in an airport?
Yeah.
Or whatnot. And so,
That's awesome. One thing that I bet most of our viewers and listeners think is inaccurate, but is actually very true, is in The Lost City. Sandra Bullock is a romance writer.
Okay.
And she goes to a romance convention, and they do this big, huge book launch event on stage with her cover model coming out, Channing Tatum, and he's like posing, and everyone's freaking out, and they want him to like take off his shirt. That is 100% accurate to romance conventions. And it feels fake, it feels like a sensational Hollywood version of this is what I think a book convention might be like. No, cover models are actually big stars among that crowd.
Yep.
I turned to my kids and I said, this is the most accurate thing that's happened in the movie so far, and they did not believe it. So,
what about the lifestyles of writers that you see depicted? Is this the same as my point before, or is it?
Well, again, I think it goes back to a misperception about how much money the typical author makes. But again, you also have to consider that usually it is the very, very successful authors being depicted, right?
Yeah.
But Hassel lives in a massive apartment in downtown Manhattan. And I know maybe 3 authors who could afford to live there. But he is, he's got a regular poker game with like James Patterson and Brad Thor or whoever it is in the circle that they get. And so that's arguably true.
I think that that's accurate. I was talking more about the fact that most writers I know, even very successful writers, if you look at like me and George, and Neil's his own weird thing. They're all writing about Neil. You see these authors, and what do they do with their money in the movies and television shows? They're jet setting. They're moving and hobnobbing with the elite. They're going to the swanky things in New York or in LA.
And everybody wants like, hey, come to our cool event. And if you're Neil Gaiman, yes, because he is very much a rock star. He cultivates that persona.
The rest of us, what are we doing?
Nobody wants us at a fancy party.
No, people don't call and I don't.
Nobody says, who's that doughy-faced balding guy in the corner?
Yeah.
Let's absolutely get him out here so he can, sign people's chests. Sorry.
And, writers kind of like to spend time alone writing. Part of what draws you to the job. And so going on these big excursions and adventures, to a lot of us, is a little tiring. Doesn't mean we don't sometimes do it, but it's not the lifestyle.
There are absolutely extroverted authors. I know several. The majority of us are introverts who are very good at faking it.
Yeah. But if you look at, I've got a good friend whose name I'm not going to mention, right?
Okay.
But he's kind of in the same wealth category that I am, shall we say. He collects Ferraris.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, there you go.
And travels on his private jet everywhere he wants to go.
Well, now I know.
I collect magic cards. And if I get
very fancy, expensive magic cards.
Expensive magic cards,
but still.
But there's a difference. Like in the movies, I think the author is collecting the Ferraris, not the magic cards.
Yeah.
And he's jet setting off to New York to go hobnob with these very rich people and the Elon Musk types and things like that.
Yeah.
I maybe go to a science fiction convention, right? Or something like that.
Well, and I think this might come back down to the difference in the screenwriters who are writing about the novelists, right? Because ours is an industry in which a certain amount of networking is valuable, but it is not requisite.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a job screenwriting, you are an expert.
Yeah.
You have gone out of your way to not only make friends, but to learn how to make friends, to make all of the connections, to leverage those connections. And so I think it's very natural to have the idea that novelists are the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I get a window into this world these days. Before COVID, I was doing a decent number of trips to LA in order to try to sell properties, right? And to get these things going. And so I ended up at some of these dinners and things. And this is just normal to them. And this was a very odd experience to me.
Yeah.
And for, I think, the screenwriters, when you start to climb the ranks, that's just what you do every week. Is you're like, there's this famous person owns a restaurant. Do you want to go with them to their restaurant? I got to do that a couple of times, right? It was really cool, but it's not my everyday life. And it's a very unique, odd situation. And I was going with my friend who collects Ferraris, who knows all these people, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh, and I've got my writer friend that we want to make his movies. Come with my writer friend and meet my writer friend. You know, that's what. And they're like, yeah, sure. But I think the screenwriters, they live in LA. You kind of have to. And most writers do not live in New York.
Publishing is in New York.
Yes.
And we will occasionally visit there. And then, our editor, our agent will take us out to a fancy dinner that's usually just like 3 people at the place they've wanted to go to because they can justify it and expense it. And that's usually all it is. The biggest meals that I get invited to tend to be when I am traveling. And I've shown up in Argentina, hosted by, usually when I fly to Argentina, it's because I'm being hosted by the embassy there. And so they'll say, well, we've arranged for one of your nights to take you to an Argentine steakhouse, and it's going to be, all these various diplomats that we do.
Right, which is cool.
Yeah.
But Brad Pitt's not.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And in the movies, it feels like that's what they have the authors doing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overemphasizing
well, and
that.
also, usually, those kinds of dinners are not for networking purposes.
No.
We are, whether it's a group of diplomats who work in an embassy or it's a group of agents or editors who work in a publishing house, it is their one chance to get out and go to a fancy place, and you're not there to do business. You're there to enjoy the fact that this is the one time you get to go to a fancy place.
Right. And there is a little bit of, let's make sure the publicist knows this, right? Like, there is some legitimate business to that, but it's not like you're sitting and talking.
Like you're sitting, talking business, cutting a deal right there. Yeah. So, getting back to that first category, the Lost City category.
Okay.
I am wondering about different genres. The idea that, we want to tell a movie in which author of X genre gets pulled into a real-life version of their genre. That happens a lot with romance. Lost City, Romancing Stone, Jewel of the Nile. That's what Castle is. His mystery writer solves mysteries.
Yep. Great premise, by the way.
Yeah, which is a very good premise.
I mean, Murder, She Wrote is the same premise, is it not? But,
what are some other examples of that in genres that I can't think of?
Stephen King, Misery.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah. He writes so many stories in which an author gets pulled into a horror scenario.
Yeah.
But that is very unique to him. I can't think of too many other horror or thriller authors that are talking about kind of nightmare horror scenarios for authors.
I mean, Misery did it so well that it's kind of like, why bother?
Why do another one?
There's Inferno by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle is about an author who's at a science fiction convention, one of the parties that we've been to many, many times, which are not as interesting as they sound. Gets drunk, falls out a window, dies, and wakes up in the Inferno, Dante's depiction of it. And so that's a fantasy science fiction author. They would say they didn't write very much fantasy, but this is totally a fantasy.
Yeah.
Authors writing about an author who gets to go to hell.
Yeah. Have I told you the author meta story I want to write?
No, go ahead.
The idea that authors, in order to write what we write, we have to sometimes do the most suspicious, horrible Google searches.
Yes.
And I've never spoken to a published author who isn't convinced they're on a watch list.
Yeah, this is a running joke.
Yes. We all joke about it all the time. And so,
how to strangle someone with shoelaces and then make it look like it was done with a rope instead.
Yeah. When I was writing the third Partials book, I needed to figure out how large a nuclear warhead is, how transportable a nuclear warhead is.
Yep.
And how, those kinds of questions that immediately get you when you type how to conceal a nuclear warhead in a large city. Someone's going to pay attention to that. And so the idea is that there's kind of a mid-list thriller writer who's at a big convention and he's talking, and a group of actual terrorists hear him say this on a panel and approach him under the guise of, we want to write, we're actually movie producers. We need you to write this book or this script or whatever. But really, it's just a front for him to do all of their
clever
Google searches for them, because he's presumably already on a safe list. And when the NSA is like, oh, we got another flag of someone trying to hide a dirty bomb. Oh, it's that guy. Yeah, he's an author. Don't worry about it. And so,
there's an apocryphal story about Tom Clancy.
Okay.
And the story goes, I've heard this fourth hand, so I'm gonna guess it's not true. But the story goes, Tom Clancy knows lots of people in the FBI, CIA, NSA, all these people, because they're fans of his books, and he's often doing research, and he's building a new book, and he's got this cool idea for a technology that could go rogue. And things like this. And he goes in, he's doing this technology, and then he gets a call a little bit later. He's pulled in the room. They're like, okay, we're developing that right now. Please don't write this book. Because if you have a book about us developing this technology, then people will believe it, because they always do. And this time you're right. So please don't.
I have a similar story, yes, that's about Shauna McGuire.
Okay.
Mira Grant, who wrote Feed. She has a friend at the CDC, and she kept sending him basically a bunch of microbiology pitches saying, would this work to make zombies real? Would this work to make zombies real? And every time this person would write back and say, well, no, that's flawed because of X, Y, or Z thing. And finally, she sent an email, well, what about if we did this, but then we modified it this way and laid out the whole thing? And the message that came back was, no, never, ever do that. And she's like, okay, now I know what to do, and wrote Feed. So,
that's awesome.
yes. That is one of the problems, though, going back to the Tom Clancy story, that I run into every time I write science fiction, is I think I'll have something really clever and unique, and then reality will catch up to me so fast. Like, even hand lotion. DARPA was developing not a cloning hand lotion, but like a GPS tracking hand lotion while I was working on Extreme Makeover. And I didn't find out about it until like it was already published. But yeah, the world catches up to science fiction authors way quicker.
That's why they invented the whole idea of the singularity, beyond which you can't know what's going to happen or whatever. Yeah, it's interesting. It is coming up with a science fiction premise that hasn't been done before is so hard. Those workhorses, we talked about workman-like writers who were writing every day.
Yeah.
Your Isaac Asimovs, who wrote 300 novels, not counting short stories. And those people working back in the golden and silver age of science fiction, they thought of a lot of ideas.
Came up
did it
with a lot of things.
And one of the fun things about having Moshe as my editor is I would be like, hey, I came up with this cool premise. He's like, oh, here's 4 stories that did that in the 60s. I'm like, I hate you and love you at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That was a moment of victory for me when I told him I'm going to do a book about cloning, and he's like, everyone's done a book about cloning. And I said, well, has anyone done it with hand lotion? And he couldn't think of any prior examples. So
yeah, Legion, the first story is about a camera that can take pictures of the past. That was when I told him, he was like, oh yeah, here's this story, this story, this story. Don't do what this one did. That didn't turn out very well. Do what this one did.
Yeah. Well, and he always had that attitude of, yes, this has been done 100 times, but no one's seen you do it before. And that's the healthy response.
It was a healthy response.
Yeah.
It was always a little frustrating. You're like, which one? And yeah.
Okay, so here's what I want to do. We've got our 3 categories, right? There is author gets sucked into genre story in real life. There is author as tortured loner.
Yes.
And then there is, what was our third one?
Author gets inspired to write their stories by real-life mundane.
Real-life events inspired book that we all know and love.
Yes.
Okay. I want to hear the Brandon Sanderson version of each of those 3.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right, only if we can have the Dan Wells version as well.
Sure.
Okay. Brandon Sanderson version of gets sucked into his own story. I mean, got to just be a Portal fantasy, right?
You have to.
I mean, it feels like the mangas that we joke about that have the really long titles, that half of them are this. Person from our world gets sucked into a cool fantasy world. Now here's how they deal with it. So I don't know if there's like, that seems like quite the trope, and it would be hard for me to figure out how to do it my way, without it just being a repeat of what's been hashed over and over again.
Now, Earth canonically is not part of the Cosmere.
It's not.
So it could not be a Cosmere novel.
Couldn't be a Cosmere novel.
It could be an Apocalypse Guard novel.
Yeah, or it could be any sort of...
We should totally put both of us into an Apocalypse Guard novel.
We could put both of us into an Apocalypse Guard novel.
That's wonderful.
What's the Dan Wells version of getting sucked into one of your stories?
Oh, man. I mean, the obvious answer is that there's a supernatural serial killer out there, right?
Yeah.
But that's boring.
Yeah.
You gotta come up with something better than that.
Like... Yeah.
I mean, I write in every different genre.
You do. But the kind of quintessential Dan story.
Quintessential Dan story is bound to be some kind of a thriller.
I think I think you get sucked into something like What's Up, Doc, except it's really weird. Right?
Okay.
Right.
So
like,
we're going full Blacker Darkness on this.
Full Blacker Darkness.
There
I
we
think
go.
you know, someone shows up on your doorstep with a briefcase and hands it to you and says, "Don't tell anyone." You open it up and there's an elder god. Right?
Okay.
And you're like, "Oh dear." And then hijinks ensue as your briefcase with an elder god in it. A Cthulhuoid entity from outside time and space. Is warping reality around you and distorting everything in very twisted and weird and interesting ways.
Like this.
And then you're on this thriller ride.
I want to go full What's Up, Doc with this, so that there's 4 cases that are identical and each contains something completely different. One has an AI. One has
something very mundane. It has Brandon's magic.
One has a bunch of like stolen maple syrup in it.
Oh, that's perfect. Yes. And then one is just your normal briefcase that has whatever weird stuff you carry around in it, you know. And then, you know,
Bluetooth keyboard.
Yes.
Plates. And my markers for signings. Awesome. All right. So
genre 2.
Genre 2. Tortured Loner.
Tortured Loner. Oh,
yeah.
Man. What's the story of Brandon?
Brandon is a tortured loner.
Brandon is tortured loner. It's working at the hotel. Because I did that for 5 years, right? Graveyard shift at a hotel.
Graveyard shift. This is the long kind of melancholy movie about Brandon.
About all
aspiring writer. 13 novels under your belt. Nothing sold yet.
Yep.
Helping people fix stains in their mattresses or whatever.
Do we have all of my friends get published? And I don't, I'm still just working there. It's like, you know.
Slaving away. This is the story of you writing all 10 books in the Stormlight Archive long before any of them get published.
Yeah.
And then on your death, it's like one of those people who dies and they find this like 4 million word manuscript in their filing cabinet.
It's all artsy. It's like, did you ever see I'm Thinking of Ending Things, or I'm Thinking of Ending It?
I've not seen it,
last year or the year before. It's very tonally like that and just a little surreal like that.
Okay.
And
like every now and then you'll look up across the lobby of the hotel and see your characters at the continental breakfast.
Yeah, it's less
of that.
Less that and more just really sad, and you wonder if the story that I'm telling about me even finishing these books is me telling a story to myself, because I actually haven't ever accomplished anything. I've wanted to be a writer and have never actually written anything, and that's the delusion.
There we go.
Like, my life is even more sorry and pathetic.
We always
than
see
it
you
seems.
typing.
Yeah.
But then finally, after you die, the camera pans around and we see your laptop screen and it's blank.
Yeah.
You've never typed a word.
Yep.
Nice.
There you go.
What's the Dan Wells Tortured Loner movie?
You have to come up with it. I came up with mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can I go? I mean, I want to go very overt with this and just actually be tortured But that's a misery story, right? We've done that one.
Yeah, I mean, you could. What is your version of torture? How are you tortured?
I think that my tortured loner story is me relentlessly trying to combine genres. I'm going to do the coming-of-age supernatural serial killer story.
Yeah.
I am going to do the historical vampire comedy.
Yep.
I am going to do, the sports movie hacker heist.
You're living in LA because, that's how these stories go.
Yeah.
And you are coming up with these. You're writing about Dan the screenwriter, like they write about. And you're like, all of your pitches are just one shade too weird.
Yeah.
But then someone else is able to make it and not be too weird. And so your tortured existence is watching you almost be there. Your idea almost working, but you had one thing wrong, and someone else does it right.
Or even worse, I am successful, but I'm only successful by relentlessly compromising my artistic principles.
There you go. We've never seen a movie like that before.
Yes, it's the TV set, only starring me, and over again, here's my brilliant, wonderful script, and they're like, okay, this is good, but we're going to take out the eldritch being in the suitcase.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a standard thriller about spies doing something.
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
like, okay, whatever, I'll cash this check, but I remain unfulfilled.
You're dead inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, last genre. Our books are inspired by the lives around us. I feel like mine is going to be lighthearted in this sense, and everyone will enjoy it. And yours is going to be, oh no, what about his life is inspired?
Yeah.
Because mine is actually, I actually do a lot of this. It's not inspired as much by life events, but by things I read and experience. So it would be more like, I don't know, like Mistborn came from what if the Dark Lord had won, was the initial premise. So I was reading Harry Potter. I'm like, Voldemort gets killed by the stupid kid.
Yeah, but we would need that to be like an overt thing. Like you wrote Mistborn after the Trump presidency or something, where you're like, But here's what I want to do. I want to make this really weird. I want to do Brandon is inspired to write Stormlight Archive by a period piece when you, in the 90s, are a camp counselor. And you're like trying to get all these kids to work together, and that ends up inspiring Bridge 4.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
that's like Mr. Holland's Opus, but there's a book at the end.
Yeah. And you're just like some teenage kid in super short shorts, and like nobody wants to go down into the caves because they have cleaning duty or whatever, and you're like, And one of the kids has depression, and you help him to like, overcome it and manage it and work with it.
There you go. That's a good one. Maybe I have to give you yours. You just gave me mine. All right. So for you, Dan's life books are inspired. The John Cleaver books are inspired by Dan's real life experiences. This is real dangerous. Dan really likes. The problem is, like, again, this has a foot in reality.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
We were driving home one night and talking about the McDonald Triad. They've heard about this, and then you wrote the book. But how can your
we could do a version of the story where I work in a mortuary.
What if there's a version of story where we went back to your life in working as a writer at a scrapbooking company?
Okay.
Dan worked as
Which is for real where I worked as a writer when we got the idea for Serial.
Yeah, he's working at a scrapbooking company. You write the newsletters for the scrapbooking company. And you are being inspired to create all the demons based on the worst impulses of the people who are two-faced at the company. Because the demons are like putting on a face that they're like a kindly old man.
Yeah.
But instead, you've got these spunky, perky people at a scrapbooking company that inside their hearts are dark. And you are being inspired for each demon by a different manager you had, or something like that.
Oh man, I've actually had a string of terrible managers. Though I will say, for the record, I actually loved everyone I worked with at that scrapbooking company. They were not the terrible managers. That was back at the fitness company that we talked about in a different episode.
It's just more funny if it's
but the scrapbooking company, if it's a bunch of like two-faced, power-hungry middle managers who inspire me to write about supernatural monsters living parasitically upon society. Yeah, I like that. Well done. You're good at this. You should be an author. You should too. Hey, thanks. How's that going?
A veteran should have a knack for killing. Watch me. You might learn something. Show me what you've got. Forward. Bet you can't make that shot. Cracking armor.
Book your TUI holiday with a £0 deposit. Dreaming of a relaxing escape or thinking about an active adventure? Book with a £0 deposit when you pay by direct debit. The TUI sale is now on. TUI, live happy, atoll protected.
Wrong detergent? Diamond renews your clothes in only 10 washes. Try now.
Hey, so guess what?
Oh, I can't wait to guess what.
Do you remember many, many episodes ago we talked about one of my very favorite food heists, which was the couple that stole a bunch of wine from a place in Spain?
Yes.
Right? This was a very professional hit. It was $1.6 million worth of wine, including one bottle that was like $300,000 all by itself. They caught him last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
They did. This was a man and a woman, and this is like straight out of a James Bond novel. They caught them on the Montenegro-Croatia border, which just sounds like a classy place to get caught by the police, right? So it turns out that they, once they figured out who it was and caught him, they had cased the restaurant 3 times already. They had timed everything flawlessly. It was all very planned and very careful, and now they are caught. And they were identified by security cameras. They've actually got little security camera footage that shows them.
If it was that professional, how did they get caught on security? Was it when they were casing the joints? Or did they actually leave their faces exposed while they were stealing?
Well, to be fair, I don't know if that is how they caught them.
Okay.
Because this article doesn't actually say how they were caught. The caption on the photo says, another image shows 2 people departing the scene. So this might be when they left early in the morning rather than them downstairs, and this was like the security camera across the street or something. I don't know. But
do you think that the people who steal wine feel like fancier food thieves than the ones who steal like Red Bull or something like that? Like, is there like an echelon where you get to lord over others that you're like, I'm a cheese thief?
I think that it might just be different categories, because the Red Bull heist, we calculated that had to be multiple trucks. So that was clearly like this master plan with lots of moving pieces, whereas this is more of like a really kind of classy 2 people who apparently just spent the last 9 months on the run in Europe drinking fancy wine. Like, I remember there was a lot of speculation at the time that they had been hired by some underground collector to get... No, just the 2 of them had this wine, and they were tooling around in Europe.
They were just drinking. They were not...
I guess, yeah. It doesn't say if they were trying to sell it or not, but yeah.
Yeah, I just imagine that there's like some cabal, that they all get together and they make the person who like steals pretzels sit outside. They have to do it for Pretzels? Really?
Yeah. But like most awards shows, at least in publishing, there's always the debut award.
Yeah, that's true.
So if it's like, the guy who stole a whole bunch of steaks because he just happened to be walking by and the fridge was open, he gets an award.
He gets an award. He can join them.
It was easy, and it wasn't...
He can't drink the fancy wine that was stolen, but, they might give him a Red Bull.
They'll give him some of the gnocchis.
Yeah, there's lots of gnocchi. That stuff just... Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, they caught those people. The end of a food heist.
We are committed on this podcast to delivering journalistic integrity and follow-ups on important matters facing our society.
The journalistic integrity part is why I said, I don't actually know, like 4 times during telling you that story.
Hey, that shows real integrity.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, how often do journalists
just say they don't know stuff?
Are we journalists?
I don't know, and I didn't look it up. Ooh.
Do we
now
count?
I feel bad. I hope we're not journalists.
But you're reporting on food heists. Like, that's journalism.
I was about to say, I'm not reporting, I'm just reading CNN out loud. But that's what a lot of local news stations do anyway.
The AP reports. Yeah. So, I know you're...
In that case, yeah.
I don't think I am. I think you are a journalist. I think, under our business cards that we, of course, have to intentionally blank. It's like lead journalist.
Lead journalist.
Yeah.
But then, see, you, by association, you're an anchor person.
That's true.
And so you are a journalist as well.
Well, I'm really like, I'm the Ed McMahon. That's too old. I'm the, I'm not, you're leading the food heist. I'm just on the couch.
You're the guy on the couch. You're Paul Schaefer over by the piano. Cracking jokes.
Maybe we use a reference to a talk show,
a modern one
that isn't.
I don't watch any modern shows.
I mean, Conan had.
Who's the guy
Andy
in the
Richter.
Roots that's there on is it Fallon? Yeah, it's Fallon.
I haven't watched that.
No.
I watched Conan, but it's canceled now.
That's Andy Richter.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well,
you can be my Andy Richter.
I'll be Andy Richter for the food heist. So, we looked at the poll that Adam put up about topics that
long time ago.
It was a while ago.
But good things come to those who wait.
Yes. We maybe take our time sometimes, but one of the most requested things was stories of us role-playing.
Stories of us role-playing.
And or dumb stories of us in college, which are basically the
mostly,
same.
We're nerds.
Yes.
We didn't do other stuff in college. We worked in college on a small press science fiction magazine called The Leading Edge.
Yep.
And we also played a lot of StarCraft, a lot of Diablo 2.
Yes, we did.
Often at the same time we were working on the magazine. I remember finishing at least one of the issues when we were in a computer lab on campus at like 2 in the morning, and there was one room that was all work and the other room was all StarCraft, and we would just move back and forth whenever we needed a break.
So, role-playing.
Yes.
I remember when 3.0 of D&D came out.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about our initial role-playing stories. I remember talking on the podcast about how we both got into TMNT and stuff like that. What's your college story? Because with me, go ahead.
My college story is you, basically. You were the one who got me into D&D.
Okay.
You or Eric Ehlers, or both. Mm-hmm. I had never played Dungeons & Dragons until 3rd edition, which came out while we were in college.
Yeah.
And we decided, oh, this is cool and new and exciting. Let's get together and let's play this. And that's where Little Grunt came from.
You kids, we'll get to Little Grunt. You kids do not understand how big an upgrade there was in role-playing back in the early 2000s, late 90s. Because role-playing in the 80s and early 90s was a miserable experience that you made fun. The amount of math required to just swing a sword at somebody was insane. D&D had this thing called Thaka.
And there's grognards out in the audience who are so angry at us because they love old school role-playing, and that's fine, you can love it.
Yes.
We did not.
You can love like things that are very complex attract a certain audience. I mean, I play Dark Systems because of the difficulty, right? So it's okay, but it was very often both that, the World of Darkness, the Vampire the Masquerade First Edition rules, GURPS, all of these old school rule systems were just so complicated that you were fighting with a calculator to figure out how smart your character was.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of it is because there was really only one style. There was simulationist role-playing games. And without going too far into the theory, that's not the only way to play. You don't have to be, old school Gary Gygax, chainmail, trying to accurately recreate combat in order to roleplay. But that's what it all used to be for a long time.
And then 3rd edition came out, and 3rd edition D&D just streamlined a whole bunch of things and somehow made the game more fun. There are other games that have been simplified like this. The West End Star Wars game was one of my favorites growing up, and it went.
I loved that one.
And it turns out that having a simple system that lets you do the things you want to do encourages a lot of fun storytelling. And it's not a bad thing if a game system is streamlined, particularly an imaginative game system. So 3rd edition came out, and I bought a copy, and my roommate at the time, Micah, loved to DM, and we ran a whole campaign together. That wasn't with you, but that was kind of me getting back into it. Then I came to my friends at Leading Edge and said, let's do some D&D. And this is our first experience kind of easing toward what became a fundamental law of the universe, which is Dan and Brandon cannot
both be players
at the same time.
Yeah.
We can play together. Just can't both be players.
Can't both be players. In fact, it was West End Games Star Wars that was the final nail in that coffin where we said, okay, that's the end. But we'll get to that story later.
We'll get to that story.
First
was Little Grunt. That was
Little Grunt. He was my first D&D character ever.
Yeah. So this, you listeners and watchers might enjoy. I did a bunch of stuff that became Stormlight Archive and my world building. Not very much, but the Koloss. Well, I guess the Koloss were not Stormlight. Mistborn. The Koloss were the bad guys. These blue-skinned monsters that eventually became the Koloss. Was there other stuff that was in? There was something else I did that turned into Stormlight.
I remember over the years lots and lots of little things from role-playing games that would eventually appear in your book.
I would try these ideas out on you guys and see which ones actually worked and were interesting, and then retool them eventually and use them in world building.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell us the story of
Little Grunt? So, very first campaign that we put together, Brandon was the game master, and let's see, the players were me and Eric Ehlers.
Yep.
And Izzy, and was it Megan, I want to say?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so the 4 of us. Eric, these were all people who worked on Leading Edge with us. So we're all nerds. We were all like professional writers or wanted to be professional writers and editors and things like that. Eric was a troll or a half-troll or an ogre or something. He was an ogre whose name was Big Grunt. And I was a half-orc who had been raised in the wilderness, and I was named Little Grunt.
Yeah, that wasn't your. That's just what people started calling the two of you in the party. I don't remember what your original actual name was.
Well, I very specifically didn't have one because he was raised completely by lizards.
Yeah.
He had no civilization whatsoever. And I think Big Grunt probably had a real name before because he had an actual background, and he was like, was he a paladin or was he just a fighter?
No, he was
very much a noble warrior who was like the big hero. He was Frodo and Aragorn combined into one character. He was also an ogre. He was a very cool character.
Yes, he was. But he was not very high on the IQ stack.
No, he was not.
And we started, I believe, just calling him Grunt. And you didn't have a name.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I'm Grunt too.
I am also Grunt. because that was the first name
that you'd ever heard.
So I was playing this half-orc who was completely, devoid of social graces or wisdom of anything.
But you had a high IQ.
Yeah.
A relatively high IQ.
Very smart.
Very low wisdom.
Yeah.
And no social skills whatsoever.
And he was... I can't remember. I think he was a sorcerer. He was one of the sorcerer wizard, one of the magic classes. This was 3rd edition, so warlock wasn't really a thing. And you came up with, because Brandon always does house rules.
Yep.
A wild magic system, a chaotic magic system.
Yep. I like to design classes for characters and give them the opportunity to, basically I like to design a class for a playstyle and say, you're acting like this. In D&D, it'd be like, here's a prestige class that you can go into that'll better follow the type of things you enjoy doing.
Yeah. And so I ended up with chaotic magic, which was basically trading predictability for power.
Yep.
Being able to get much more powerful spells, but we weren't sure what they would do.
Yes, or the side effects, and I would have a big list. This is, if you want to know what it's like to roleplay with Brandon, it is detailed world building and enormous numbers of random tables that he has designed himself to encourage fun role-playing scenarios. You're going to find so many decks of many things, or wands that you don't know what they do, or would you like to take this bargain from death, you don't know what boon you'll get, and, or you ask for a boon and you get a random side effect. That sort of thing happens all the time.
Very, very
Death who was Dreffer. In all of my campaigns. I don't know why, but he was.
Why not?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So, Little Grunt, there were 3 key moments in Little Grunt's life. They were the defining features of what happened to him and how everything came about. And the first one didn't actually use the magic or the randomness at all. It was the very first person that we killed. Which was like the villain. The first little minor villain, like the mini boss that you fight in the first episode that brings you together as a group, was some, minor noble named Pardol, who I still use in many of my campaigns, and actually maybe even in one of my novels. I think I have a Pardol. Anyway, so we killed him, and because I was this feral orc that was raised in the wilderness, I kept his head.
As one does.
Yeah, why not? And eventually formed that head into a helmet. But I decided that would be like one of the things that Little Grunt did, is he just saved the heads of anything important that we killed.
Yep.
And so I eventually had a big sack full of heads. The second key moment in Little Grunt's life came when you had a monster that cast some kind of insanity spell.
Yep.
And I was the one who failed a save. Everyone else got through it fine.
Yep.
I failed my save on this very powerful insanity
didn't
spell.
fail it. You rolled a 1.
Yeah, absolutely critical fail. It was the worst possible fail. Which spawned the famous quote, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, I guess I'm licking the walls. That became a thing in our friend group for a while.
Yes.
And so in order to determine what the nature of my insanity was, we had a patented Brandon insanity kit.
Yep, this one I actually got off out of a book somewhere.
Yeah, I think it was based on the Palladium one.
It was.
Because Palladium
has
has
the Palladium insanity kit. That's what I did. Yep, they love the random lists of things. And so when I needed a random list of something I hadn't come up with at the time, I went to them. So yes,
pull out Rifts or TMNT
I remember
or something.
Getting out a book for this one.
Yeah, and rolled Power Association, which is like the Popeye thing, right?
Yep.
You have this incredible power, but you think it comes from the spinach or whatever.
Yep.
And we decided that Little Grunt's Power Association was Pardol's head that he carried with him. So he then, thought that this was his god, and it would,
grant him the power to cast
grant him the power and the magic spells.
Yep, and that's when you started picking up this wild magic thing, and it all kind of came together.
Yeah. And then a major fight.
Yep.
This was like the end of the second act kind of campaign thing. We were fighting some horrible, and I can't remember the nature of it, but had to pull out every stop we possibly had.
Yep.
And so I used all of the features of this random magic class and said, what's the absolute most powerful thing I can do without knowing anything of what it was? And we rolled, and Brandon's tables were like nested, and there was so many, and we had to roll like 7 times to finally get down. This table will send you to this table, and that result will send you over here. And at the end, it turned out that we had like a level 9 boosted revive dead or resurrection or something like that. And we all thought, well, what is that gonna do? And then we realized that I had a bag of heads and was wearing a helmet made out of the guy's skull that I thought was the god granting me all my powers. And that changed everything for the rest of the campaign.
So instead of defeating the bad guy with your super powerful spell, it brought to life your heads.
All the heads.
All your heads came back to life.
And they started talking.
Yes. And they were the Power Association, particularly Cardol's head. And so you had this villain on your head who did not want to, that I would run as an NPC, who had no volition because, you know, he attached to
He wasn't actually a god.
We didn't give him back his body. He just remained as a skull. And that campaign was fantastic because Dan is really good at running this sort of being in character, particularly a character that's very quirky. If you can imagine, he is very good at this. And so this orc that didn't understand society, that was, you know, doing the comb your hair with a fork sort of stuff that, you know, the Little Mermaid would do, except more extreme and more weird.
Yeah. And more often than not, as dark as we.
As dark as you can make it, but really good music. That's the thing you have to understand about the character. He was pleasant, but disturbing. He was really trying to understand
pleasant, but
society.
disturbing is what it says on my business card.
Yeah. Really trying his best to understand society, to be part of it. Not understanding why, you know, he can't set his skulls up along the table as we're having dinner. To show off his great accomplishments.
They were there with us. They helped defeat the enemy. They deserve to be part of the party.
Yeah.
You know, and as pleasant as he was, that was the big final showdown. Brandon had built this thing.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be.
Don't tell this one because I'm actually going to use this in a book.
Oh, you're going to use this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been
I'm not
waiting
going to say anything
for
about
years
this.
to use this in a book. So
Okay.
don't say anything.
We're going to keep this.
Yeah. After
quiet.
I use it in a book, you can tell the story.
Then we'll say, oh, by the way, that thing, Little Grunt was there.
Yes, Little Grunt was there. You guys are going to love this. It is involved in the ending of Stormlight 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
I'm excited.
So,
I'm very
yes.
excited. Is it going to go...
I will tell you off camera how it's going to go.
No more spoilers there.
Let's just say I came up with one of the best endings for a story that I have ever come up with. And because it's role-playing, the PCs did not play along.
Ruined it
completely. And I'm like, I'm going to use that someday. And I actually put it right in the outline to Stormlight like a week or two later. And it's been waiting all of this time to be used.
Wow, a week or two later, and that would have been like 99. So
Yes.
it's been waiting a long time in the wings.
It's been waiting a long time to come. So that's why I'm hoping that it doesn't get spoiled. Because,
okay. Well, I will not spoil it.
So that's what it's like to role play with Dan. Role playing with Brandon. Let's see. Did you run any campaigns that?
The only thing that I ran in which you were a player back in college days was we did a very brief Rift campaign.
Okay, I remember that.
And we had you as, I think, a Cyber Knight.
That didn't last very long. There's not a lot of stories I remember from that one.
No, that one wasn't super great. I do remember that that is where I kind of codified in my head that all of Brandon's role-playing characters were either evil or dumb. And because that one, he was the paladin guy.
Yeah.
And you played him as this very kind of Dudley Do-Right, kind of brainless guy.
I really enjoy that archetype. Were you there for Farg? So
I remember Farg.
Farg is a dwarf wrestler. third edition had some wrestling rules. They were bad. It was not, but I'm like, ooh, I can build a wrestler. And so I built a fighter built completely around wrestling, which is a really good idea in like MMA or martial arts, and a really terrible idea for group battles.
Yeah.
Because my character would jump on somebody and get them to the ground and be punching them on the head while fire was starting and dragons were flying around and explosions.
And the rest of the fight would go around, and then we'd go back to Brandon and say, what is your character do? Well, I'm going to punch him in the face again.
Yep.
And just very slowly whittle one guy down.
Yep. It was, but he was also a little bit mentally challenged in the whole IQ department. IQ was his dub stat, and so Jordan was his brother. My brother in real life was
Farg's brother.
Farg's brother, though I think Jordan was a human, and so they were raised together. They were stepbrothers. And his job was to try to keep Farg from ruining everything because, you know, he liked to Leroy Jenkins and just run in and then tackle things and stuff like that. And the fun of that campaign was playing a character who made my brother have to be the big brother because he's my little brother, right? And making Jordo be the big brother to me. We don't really have a big brother, little brother relationship. We're both close in age and close in maturity, but it was very fun to force Jordo into that role where I was going to do something stupid and he knew I was going to do something stupid, and he would do his best to prevent me from doing something stupid, so I would do something stupider.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. The exasperation from Micah, the DM, is also, I thrive on exasperation from DMs when I'm a player.
Well, and that is, you know, that is a character that I was aware of, but not a campaign that I was in.
Okay.
Because, you know, that dynamic was Jordo trying to stop your character from being the crazy one that ruins things.
Yes.
Whereas any character I would have played would have absolutely taken that madness and run with it.
Because we have talked about Darth.
Well, that's Star Wars. That's where we're going.
So where we're
First, we need to talk about the other side of the Brandon characters, which is the evil.
Evil is a
it is a reductive word.
Reductive. There you go.
Yes.
You know, maybe not bounded by being D&D's rigid and, let's just say, biased.
Commodore, I'd like to thank you for providing additional training for our rejects. Think nothing of it. Happy to help. As long as the Aquillas keep flowing.
Creepypasta. The year is 1999. That sentence brings me back to my senior kindergarten class when I was 5 years old. Well, we used to read out the date on the blackboard every single day. The year 1999 exists as a stain in my mind. However, as
as a memory that will not go away no matter how hard I try to forget it. 1999 marks the first year I lost my first tooth, the first time on a plane, and unfortunately the early loss of my childhood innocence. That one memory that refuses to be white, it all started with that new, or old, TV.
Throne, protect us.
The battle group has...
Harden your heart.
At the time, posing for another few months until I discovered Channel 21. One April day, I was flipping through the channels trying to see what